What a weird time for a state of play. 10 p.m. on a Monday? Well, it's a mature game. There's probably about to be a lot of blood flying, but didn't record it last night as it was happening. I don't like to get to bed late. But yeah, let's take a look at this thing. Let's see how to play Phantom Blade Zero, because I definitely want this.
Extinguish the flame. See what burns beneath. Drop the blade. Let true steel speak. No shape. No shadow. Yet it moves through all. That's the path to know.
Who are you?
I'm It Man.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donnie Yen,
Yeah, buddy.
creative consultant for Phantom Blade Zero, and the actor behind Mo Yuan, a formidable martial arts master. I want players around the world to enter our wuxia world driven by old grudges, shifting alliances, and the confrontations that forge its legends. Rooted in the traditions of Chinese martial arts, Phantom Blade Zero embraces bold imaginations and distinct cultural elements to create a new aesthetic we call Kung Fu Punk.
Cool. Sounds cool. So it's not going to be a Souls-like. I'm assuming it's not going to be a Souls-like. It's going to be something new that they're coming up with. It's going to be something new that they're coming up with.
Hi everyone, I'm Soulframe, the creator and director of Phantom Blade Zero. Today, I'm inviting you into our universe, a dark wuxia epic filled with mystery, vendettas, and lightning-fast wordplay. You play as Soul, once the Order's most feared blade. After being set up for your leader's murder, you are betrayed by the people you once fought beside.
What? What have I done?
In the final duel against your childhood blood brother, Zuo Shang, the blade is driven through your heart.
You're late. Let's get started already.
The mysterious healer, the flesh sculptor, restores your life, but with a fatal condition. You have exactly 66 days to live. Survival means fighting a cure hidden in the chaos ahead, but the hunt will force you to confront the rod beneath your betrayal and a scheme massive enough to break the entire Wulin. The Wulin is a martial underworld forged in blood and belief. You will walk among the last guardians of righteousness, the fallen who surrendered to darkness, and the lost warriors bound by broken codes. Each choice you make here will fracture your trajectory and reshape your fate. 66 days. That's all the time you have. But you won't be alone. Martial artists from across the Wulian have gathered in Pangzhen, turning the town into a deadly trap of rival factions, hidden malice, and deadly schemes.
The girl's nothing but a shell now. She'll never be the same.
As you uncover the grim secrets buried here, you will realize some things matter far more than survival, and that some enemies can never be defeated by the sword alone.
Master Soul has entered Pangzhen. It seems the flesh sculptor's tainted hearts has restored his strength.
A change in the game may not be such a bad thing. I'm looking forward to his next move.
The Phantom World is a stage for the style we call Kung Fu Punk, where traditional Kung Fu collides with steampunk machinery and body modification.
Okay, that's what they mean by that.
Your journey takes you through intricate but surreal landscapes.
I kind of thought Kung Fu
leading
Punk
you
was
deep
going to
into
be
the
the
heart of
genre.
Pangzhen and its surrounding villages,
subgenre.
valleys, lakes, and shadowed territories, including a valley overrun by ruthless bandits, an abandoned warehouse filled with hanging puppets, where a dark ritual seems to be taking place. A steam-powered iron tower built for some kind of dark experiment. And a vast lake, which Soul must navigate aboard a peculiar high-speed vessel. Your journey is guided by 8 authentic hand-painted Chinese ink wash maps. In complex regions, they offer only a rough sense of direction, leaving you to explore and uncover hidden secrets. These maps seamlessly connect into a single world. Rails enable fast travel between discovered locations. Phantom Blade Zero is not an open-world game, nor is it a linear adventure from beginning to end.
That's fine. Totally fine.
Instead, every corner has been meticulously handcrafted, filled with countless surprises and secrets waiting to be discovered. As you explore Phantom Blade Zero, you will discover hidden enemies, side quests, rare treasures, and crucial story clues.
It's sounding like Black Myth Wukong,
In Phantom Blade Zero,
as far as the map
is
goes.
the driving force. Every weapon is forged from martial folklore, cinematic legacy, and ancient tradition. Soul wields a massive arsenal of 30 primary weapons alongside 25 secondary weapons known as Phantom Edges. For example,
Sick.
the Drunken Sword style builds drunken energy, enhancing Soul's evasiveness,
Drunken Master.
weighing and staggering with every strike. The White Serpent and Crimson Viper twin blades work in tandem. The length of the White Serpent allows you to fling the Crimson Viper outward for ranged attacks. The fluid steel of the Soft Snake Sword coils around an opponent's guard, striking targets cleanly and even slicing through incoming threat-based attacks mid-air. However, a light blade won't be enough against heavy shields, and relying on swords alone will turn the fight into a punishing struggle. Crushing those defenses requires the brutal momentum of iron fists and The Tiger Cannon can blast apart distant enemy formations with a single shot, or ignite self-destructing enemies before they get close. And when bladed weapons fall short against a swarm of savage dogs, the flame-spewing flaming mane makes quick walk up the mall.
Sick. Skill tree.
Mastery goes far deeper than basic attributes. Upgrading a weapon unlocks distinct forms and techniques, carving out a unique combat philosophy.
Combat looks deep because of all the weapons.
You will never worry about a newly acquired weapon being too weak. With the Reforging Talisman, you can reset the weapon's level, recover all invested materials, and immediately reinvest them into your new gear.
"66 days mode."
We've crafted difficulty options as distinct ways to experience the story. Wayfarer mode is intuitive and cinematic, letting anyone feel like a kung fu master. But for those seeking a true challenge, Hellwalker mode brings in core fighting game mechanics. Bosses won't rely on fixed patterns. They react to your spacing, punish your whiffs, and adapt to your habits in real time.
Shit. Can you explain the
For
meters?
the ultimate test,
What about
unlock
Pathbreaker?
66
Is that
days
normal?
mode. Unlike the other difficulty settings, this mode turns Soul's 66-day countdown into a literal gameplay timeline. It features the intensity of Hellwalker, but every defeat costs you precious time.
Oh,
If the
wow.
clock hits 0, it is permanent death.
Permadeath. And you start all over again. Probably.
Our ultimate goal is to draw from the deep well of authentic Chinese folk arts and martial arts, infusing them into the sleek, visceral aesthetic we call Kung Fu Punk. To show you what that looks like in motion, please take a look at this boss encounter.
Dude, can you explain the meters? Like, don't just assume that people know what these are just because they played a few games that are similar. I mean, I have, but I'm counting on this to be different in some way. sick. It's pretty dope. Damn. It's dope. It's very fast. It's very flashy. It's hella flashy. But I'd like to know more about dodge mechanics, parrying. You got UI in the bottom right corner there. What are those? Well, weapons, of course, but... So it looks like you can wield two, and then the other two things on the side there, not sure. You got some elemental shit going on.
Bringing Phantom Blade Zero to life has been a massive endeavor, and the support from our community has allowed us to build the exact game we envisioned. It's our way of paying tribute to tradition, while bringing it to life as an immersive experience for players all over the world.
Don't tell me you're done. I mean, it was only a 20-minute video.
Now, this is just a quick glimpse of Phantom Blade Zero. There's much more for you to explore, and you may even cross paths with the character I play along the way.
Phantom is movement, is swift, elusive, striking from where none expect. Blade is breath.
We channel it into a steel, turning any blade into a divine weapon. That's the path to know. Pre-order now.
I'm interested. I wish they would have told us more. Adaptive triggers, Totally unnecessary. as far as I'm concerned, that haptic feedback, it just drains battery. It's not even necessary. Yeah, it's dope. I'm definitely interested in it, but I wish they would have gotten into the meters a bit more. Better be a demo. Let there be a demo, please. What else is going on? Yeah, everybody is still pushing for discs, which I'm not complaining about. There needs to be discs. There's still a market there. Yeah. Everybody is disc. Keep pushing it. Keep pushing it, y'all. I'm pretty sure there's a video where Max has played Wolverine early.
Big thanks to PlayStation for sponsoring the video.
So
what's up, dudes? Max here. So
Max played Wolverine early because, of course, he did.
Because there are some games coming out that I've been really looking forward to, and
let's take a look at this real quick, and we'll call it
over the past few weeks, and finally get a chance to talk about. And it's Marvel's Wolverine, made by Insomniac Games. Also had the chance to visit their studio for the very first time and check out the game, get an actual hands-on session, talk to the developers a whole bunch, and they had a pretty crazy setup of a variety of places and locations throughout the game. And now I get to finally talk about a few of the things that I've been looking forward to. And many of the things that we've been seeing in trailers and wondering how it's going to play out have some pretty concrete information and kind of breakdowns of what you can expect in Marvel's Wolverine based on this short, almost like hour-long play session with a variety of locations and gameplay scenarios that they allowed us to sink our teeth into. So let's just get into it.
Make this quick! It's been 48 hours since Essex was captured.
So, of course, like many of you and myself, a lot of you probably got into some of Insomniac's games, especially from like the Spider-Man series, some previous superhero titles that they have made, if not many of the games in the past, right? But I was really into Spider-Man, so my biggest comparison here was to see how the combat differentiates itself from their previous superhero combat isms, and get that direct comparison to see how things have improved and what makes Wolverine, you know, that much different as an action game than something like Spider-Man, which is more of like an open-ended sort of like sandboxy game in many ways. This game is definitely not that. And I'm going to talk about how Marvel's Wolverine, first and foremost, is a pretty straightforward action title.
Parrying.
Everything about Marvel's Wolverine is about Wolverine himself and what his abilities are and what he can do. There's limited amounts of exploration throughout some of these levels, and it is very much a combat-focused story experience that is going to have Logan going throughout a lot of what his origin story is in this universe that Insomniac Games is creating.
Wait,
for
what was that?
Sort of like story is in.
Build a full summon of the rage minute in a rage tier 2. Last damage becomes available when combo enters, becomes significant. Okay, so the red meters, kind of like Final Fantasy 16, you build up rage and you press the 2 sticks down to activate the limit break, and Clive goes into like berserker. And so Logan's got the same shit.
This universe that Insomniac Games is creating for sort of like a place that does not initially have X-Men and is more about an origin story of Wolverine himself. And first and foremost, we just have to get into the gameplay. So how does Wolverine pilot? We've only had so many different interpretations of this character in especially like 3D action games in the past. And this one is a very specific take with some interesting modern game nuances in here.
Specialists, huh? No.
Yes, Marvel's Wolverine is all about a single dude that approaches a multitude of enemies and has to deal with a multitude of enemies in most of these scenarios, right? It's all about like one guy versus effectively like 7 to 10 dudes and figuring out how to take them all down in cool, flashy, and engaging ways. That isn't all too different from a lot of the engagements in a game like Spider-Man, for example, but the difference is how you specifically engage the enemy. So traditionally, there's like an attack button, and there's also another lunging button. And on the triangle button, the whole point of it is that you need to get to certain characters quickly. What I liked about this is that there's a lot of manipulation with like momentum, and it really feels like momentum is a focus of Wolverine as a combat action character, and it's all about getting him to sort of like pounce and magnetize towards the enemies that are threats to him. The challenges of that, of course, are figuring out where the threats are coming from. There is visual indicators of like where characters are attacking you from, where you're being shot, where you're taking damage, all that kind of stuff. But the real fun comes in the utilization of environmental hazards. And this is something that Insomniac is amazing at, something I loved in Spider-Man, where it's all about getting enemies to like the wall. And when you get to walls, they engage in stun states. You get like extra bonuses for finishing attacks. There are reasons to finish certain combos in certain ways that give you like either health increases or some sort of like stat modifier, and other ones that just result in damage to go for a kill. There's a lot of like, I would say, mixing and balance of your life bar, where it's like encouraging you to get back in there and recover life in some ways, which I really liked. There's some other PlayStation games that are like that have you incentivized to go in and re-attack the enemies to get more health back, and I really like that in this. I thought it was very fun, and it was also very fun from a mobility perspective of like leaping around with Wolverine. There's like a run button, and when you run around and you jump, you have these huge leaps that you can make across environmental traversals. And also in combat, some people were sort of like sticking to their boots on the ground in combat, and I just like jumping around with this guy like crazy and figuring out what combos you can do, how you can chain one thing to the next, get a character to fly into another character, stuff like that. However, the real fascinating thing is that I believe it was on the L1 button, which is somewhat appropriate. The game sort of has like a universal parry. So Wolverine does have a focused sort of like parry attack that is an omnidirectional parry. When an enemy's coming in and attacking you, you can effectively deflect them, and it leads to cool opportunities that happen after that. You might also be wondering, so how do I dodge out of the way of these attacks? I think on the circle button, there is a traditional dodge/roll, and if you double tap it, you get an even bigger roll that gets you out of the way in direction of certain enemy attacks. But there's like, you can avoid things, or you can be really aggressive and build up these different meters. There's like a rage meter, for example, that has you engaging enemies more and more and more, and the more you engage enemies in like a consistent fashion, it sort of like builds it up, which I thought was pretty neat. It's like more incentivization to keep like glued to the opponent and constantly hack at them nonstop. Now, there's also a revival mechanic where if Wolverine's life bar gets depleted, his health functionality, his like mutant power, is able to replenish a bit of life. And I think this was an exchange of the rage bar.
Yeah,
if you
that have rage.
more of the rage meter there, and you were like getting in there and taking damage and going ham, right? He gets all messed up, and you're going to take damage doing this stuff. But the idea is that you can trade that off for effectively like a revive.
Yeah.
It's like a one-time revive that allows you to get up and heal a bit of health. So there is a multitude of ways to sort of keep yourself engaged in the fights, and I was having a lot of fun exploring.
Yeah, it's just like Final Fantasy 16's limit breaks. If you want to call them limit breaks, you trigger it, and then you get health back. I think he's getting health back as he's doing this. Yep.
Wolverine is just in the fights, and I feel a bit of health. So there is a multitude of ways to sort of keep yourself engaged in the fights, and I was having a lot of fun
I think
exploring.
Yeah, he's starting to get. Yeah, he triggers it, and then he starts getting health back as the meter goes down.
I get it. You see these over-the-shoulder sort of like third-person action games, and sometimes you're like, oh, so it's going to be a bit lumbery. You know, you're going to have a character that sort of feels like they really can't move around very much. Spider-Man was very good at like doing this in a way that made Spider-Man feel very nimble. And yeah, it feels like without being directly like Spider-Man, a lot of the stuff that they learned from those previous games is directly influenced here, where Wolverine is a very responsive character, right? Even though there's a ton of animations and all this kind of stuff and polish, which we'll talk about in a second, it was very cool to see that I can approach a lot of these situations and platforming and all that kind of stuff in a way that like makes me feel like, oh, I'm not losing control of the character constantly. If there was one gripe I would have that I hope gets addressed by the time the game comes out, we'll see.
It looks intense.
There's a lot of different options for the camera and lock-on in this. And right now, we played it by the different
one
options
second.
for the
One thing.
I hope gets addressed. control of the character constantly. If there was one gripe I would have that I hope gets addressed by the time the game comes out, we'll see. There's a lot of different options for the camera and lock.
Okay, he just got health back.
And
he just got health back, and he didn't use meter.
That I hope gets addressed by the time the game comes out. We'll see. There's a lot of different options for the camera and lock on in this. And right now we played it by the default option, even though there was more there. The default one sometimes is a little difficult to keep what's going on with the camera in the screen. So the good news is that there was a ridiculous amount of accessibility options in the game for the camera. That means that, yes, I'll probably have the opportunity to find a control scheme and a lock-on scheme that I really like. But initially there was like a soft lock with a camera that could be a little difficult to get the things that you want into the screen. So we just have to tinker with that a little bit more. And I hope by the time the game comes out, that'll be something that we can sort of find solutions for ourselves. Now, talking about visuals, I believe the game was running probably on PS5 Pro, just for an example of how we were playing it. And yeah, it's ridiculously polished, ridiculously good looking. Probably one of the better looking games on the console that I've seen in a very long time. The pedigree of visual fidelity from Insomniac is like one of the highest out there. So yeah, it feels like the game has gone through a ridiculous amount of polish for probably quite some time to get it to look the way it does. We had some low light environments, we had some daytime environments, we had some cool like city-esque environments that we had to mess around with, and visually speaking, like from a character facial animation standpoint to everything between action and combat, it is a very realistic looking game. It is most of the character designs have realistic takes, which is going to be like hit or miss for some people, but it's undeniable that like, oh, it's one of the craziest looking games visually I've seen. And considering what was being put on the screen in front of my eyes and an OLED that was sometimes like even way too close for my eyes, I couldn't believe it, man. I was just leaning in and looking at some of the visual detail, and it was absolutely astounding. And the last thing I wanted to mention is sort of the gameplay loop of the game and what you do, because effectively Wolverine is going on like missions. You have like action missions, where in those action missions you are going through and fighting a bunch of enemies and learning stuff, and you got skill trees, you got a bunch of moves and abilities that you learn in the background that modify stuff and give you more enhancements and new attacks. But it is very much a focused action experience. There's not much deviation. There's some things to find. There's like experience points and audio logs and things like that. But is there much deviation from the beaten path? Can you go to many other areas? No, you're like kind of in a level, you know?
Okay.
And then you get a big cinematic boss fight. We had one that was a Sentinel fight that I thought was really cool and very fun, and was a pretty parry happy fight as well. And the last part of the game gave me an idea of maybe how this is structured, where you get a city, like a pretty explorable city with a lot of NPCs and things happening and things to do.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
But it's focused around this bar, and it's like your central hub where these other mutants are hanging out, and you can talk to them and, you know, have a bunch of discussions, and other side characters that are going to be helping you out with missions and have discussions with them that learn more about Wolverine's backstory and all of this stuff. And I noticed, I was like, oh, I wonder if this is like the central hub of the game where we go from here. It's kind of hard to tell, but there was a bit more exploration of this environment, because you have a situation where you're attacked by a bunch of enemies and you have to pursue them throughout this environment, which is pretty challenging. And as you're pursuing and running around, and it's sort of like quick action focused chase sequences and stuff like that as you're fighting enemies and running after enemies, I'm like, this is a pretty big zone. I wonder if other zones are going to be like this, where you're sort of like running around a city and engaging with all this stuff in a variety of different ways in action set pieces. So I couldn't tell if it was like your hub, you know, and we're going to be coming back here and seeing things change as we adopt new characters and, you know, introduce new story elements and all that kind of stuff. But
oh god,
it's kind of neat that it's just strictly point A to point B, like level based sort of situations. Like there could be what maybe is like a hub. So I found that kind of fascinating. The other part of the game is that it's extremely story focused, man. Like, this is all about Wolverine, his emotional journey, what he's going through, what the people around him are going through, who he's trying to protect, what is most important to him, all that kind of stuff. They're very much trying to get us to connect to Wolverine and his plight and his story and his struggles and efforts and all that kind of stuff, where you learn a lot about his backstory, and you definitely get a whole bunch of very narrative driven character story sequences throughout the entire game. And all of the characters that work with Wolverine too, not to mention characters like Sabretooth and others like Jean, they do jump in and help Wolverine out in combat in some situations. Although it didn't seem like you can necessarily control those others as this stuff was happening. They sort of jumped in and did cool stuff to help you out during cinematic finishers and the like. The only tough part about a very story-driven narrative experience is that in the demo they had us like at the beginning of the game doing some very introductory stuff and introducing us to the story, and then parts later on that were sort of like a bit later, like many chapters later, to get us an introduction to here's like this big city environment, here's like a cool Sentinel boss fight, all that kind of stuff. So for a game that's extremely like narratively driven and us trying to like get into the story of the characters, we were very much splitting up a lot of those cool story sequences and skipping over many of it. And it's like, oh, you're asking me to be emotionally invested in this part, but I missed all that stuff that would have gotten me emotionally invested. So what I'm trying to say is I'm very much looking forward to the full game and seeing the entire story in an actual, laid out sequence where we understand exactly what's going on here, exactly what's going on there, because so much of it is very emotionally, narratively driven. And I just very much want to see that whole structure put together in a way that like is normal, without it being segregated into different segments like a demo. And as a big story-focused narrative game, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out. So that's about it. There's more that I'll probably talk about on stream pretty soon. I'll review some of this footage and go over it and give a chance to talk about like gameplay things. But in terms of a quick preview and impression, I wanted to dive a bit deeper into the character ability things because there's a lot to like moves. I didn't even talk about customization, dude. You get a ton of costumes in this game. You also get weapon skins. You get claws. You get a bunch of unique, different Wolverine claws.
Oh, I'll bet.
Which I thought was very neat. It didn't seem like the costumes
like the flaming Ghost Rider claws,
like stat modifiers in any way. We didn't get too much time to like explore and figure out like how all of these things worked because it was a very specific demo. And one of the things that I'm really looking forward to later on is that they only gave us so many abilities to really work with, and they're sort of like straightforward. Like one's a jumping, lunging attack, one's a jumping, lunging follow-up to combos, things like that. Pretty straightforward, like action game stuff. And I'm very curious how crazy it gets. Like how nutty is the stuff Wolverine going to do when he gets his abilities access to like later on? Because you get a lot of passives and almost like build things that you can have with your character. And I'm wondering how all that works out later on because it was pretty limited with the very finite amount of time that we had with the game. I want them to go crazy with this stuff, dude. I want like crazy powers and things like that. But I'm wondering if they'll do that because this is ultimately a very grounded, like I said, emotionally, narratively driven story Wolverine, and maybe not the super fantastical one. I mean, all things considered, you kind of take down a 100-foot sentinel within a boss fight of this game. So it's getting pretty fantastical already. Either way, I'm looking forward to the game. A big thanks to PlayStation again for setting this up, for sponsoring the video, for allowing us to go to Insomniac Studios to play the game. I very much appreciate it, and it's easily one of my most anticipated games of this year. If you guys want to learn more about Marvel's Wolverine, there is a link in the description below. It's available exclusively on PlayStation 5 on September 15th, so pre-order it now if you're looking forward to it. Anyway, I'll be back with more and a full playthrough, obviously later when the game eventually comes out. My name is Max, and I'll see you dudes next time.
Oh, God, I can't wait. It looks so good, so clean, so brutal. Yeah, after October, I'm going to have some decisions to make. Start Wolverine next month, Phantom Blade Zero in October. Hopefully there's a demo for Phantom Blade Zero. I don't need for Wolverine to have a demo. I'm getting that. It doesn't matter. But Phantom Blade Zero looks like some new shit. Like, they need to do a demo for that. Still playing Nier Automata. Still playing that. I'm hoping I'm close enough to the real ending to where I can push that aside for a bit and focus on either alternating between Wolverine and Phantom Blade Zero, or playing Wolverine all the way through and then transitioning to Phantom Blade Zero. Because I don't imagine Wolverine is going to be super long. I don't imagine it's going to be one of those 40-hour games. I think Spider-Man was, I don't know, maybe between 10 and let's see real quick. Let's just say Spider-Man 2, 13 to 15 hours, front to back. But full completionist run, more than 25. I don't imagine Wolverine is going to be too much longer than that. It might be even shorter because the world isn't the same. We're not swinging through New York City. It's pretty linear. I would imagine it's pretty linear. How long is Wolverine going to be? About 12 to 15 hours. Yep, probably. Front to back, without special stuff, without the side stuff. Main story is expected to be 12 to 15 hours. Yeah, it's not as big in scale as any of the Spider-Man games, so yeah, more linear, narrative focused, optional side content exploration, but not a sprawling open world. So yeah, I would say a minimum of 20 hours for a completionist run, a minimum of at least 20 hours. Oh yeah, bring it on. Bring it on. The end of 2026 is going to be great. And if y'all are new, if you're new, please like and subscribe. You know how YouTube works. I'll see y'all for the next one.